onwards, I started reading like friends of friends and family members of my friends, and then started reading some friends that like.
That's when you start charging people.
It was actually fun.
Yeah, look, mates rates for you guys, but it's going to cost them extra.
I call it an energy exchange.
My name is Ellie.
And my name is Ross.
Welcome to our podcast, In Real Life, where we dive deep into life, relationships, and real-world topics.
We promise laughter, tears, and jaw-dropping moments. Well, I don't want to promise it.
So get ready, because this is what it means for us to live in real life. This series will touch on subjects related to suicide and other challenging life experiences. If you're struggling with thoughts of self-harm or suicide, you can reach out to Lifeline Australia at 13 11 14 or reach their website at www.lifeline.org.au. Hey guys, welcome back to In Real Life with Ellie, Ross and Daisy, and today our first ever guest on In Real Life.
Yeah. What an honour.
David the Medium.
Thanks for having me.
The icon, the legend. We're
the
honoured
myth,
to...
the legend,
the man, the myth, the legend.
All the things.
What a great welcome. Thank you.
From my experience, from what I've seen of you over the years, and I just want to preface by saying David has not seen any of our previous episodes that we filmed today for this series. So this is like he doesn't know anything about us or like our dad's situation or anything like that.
No, well, we just recorded 2 back-to-back.
Yeah.
This morning.
Yeah.
And it's the first time that we've really spoken about this sort of stuff. So there's no insight really as to any of this sort of stuff. But Ellie said when we decided to do this topic, she said we've got to get David. And look, I can be a bit skeptical. So I've had experiences where, and we just shared this, right? There was this.
No, don't
should I
say.
No.
We'll tell them after.
Okay, but no, I've definitely had experiences where it's like, surely there's something else. But then I'm also like, hang on, how can you really be doing this? So I've seen one of your do you call it a reading?
Yeah, readings.
Yeah, I've seen one of your readings, and I was like, fucking hell.
Which reading was this? I'm excited to hear. Which
Olivia.
one? Okay, yeah.
So I watched that,
Yeah.
and I was like, wow, this guy is either like super fucking good at tricking people, or there's something there. And I way more lent to there's something there, because the stuff that came up, I was just like, nah.
Who knows that? Yeah.
So when Ellie was like, David's got to be on, after we talk about our dads, after we talk about grief and loss, we've got to have him on. And
I felt like
see what happens. So,
I felt like it was going to be a really nice closing episode to close out the whole series, because it is such a heavy topic that we speak about, and speaking about our experiences in grief and all that. So I felt like this was a really nice way to end somewhat of like a very emotional series for us.
So how do you describe what you do? If someone's sitting next to you on the bus, like, oh, what do you do for work?
What do you do for
How
work?
do you describe it? What do you...
Oh, gosh, well, if I can't be bothered having the conversation, I actually say I have a legal background, which is true, because I'm not lying to everyone. So, I mean, my story is really unique because I was a natural skeptic myself to begin with. So I can appreciate and understand where skepticism comes from, or for me, it's really sort of seen as believing. But I have a background in corporate, and my last proper job was criminal prosecution. So I was open to spirituality. I didn't really understand it, wasn't really exposed to it, but I always had the belief that there was something else out there. And I saw a medium when I was 24 and went in open-minded, but also quite obnoxious at the same time. I was like, if she asks me any questions, I'm going to give her yes or no answers, like, we'll see, because everything for me was very black and white in life at that time.
Was it a spur of the moment, you going and seeing this person, or did someone drag you along? Or
it was a work so I just started a new job, and it was actually a work colleague who recommended her to me. And I'd only been at this new job for 2 weeks. So it was really bizarre to be having conversations like that, spirituality, mediumship with someone I barely knew.
Yeah.
And anyway, went and saw this lady, and 10 minutes in, she's like, you realize you can do this? And I was like, no way. Like, I didn't grow up seeing spirits. I didn't grow up seeing or hearing or having things at the end of my bed or anything like that. My intuition, my gut feelings were always very strong, and I had really good advice to give as a teenager to all my friends, but never connected with spirit or a higher power. And long story short, she did a mentoring class, and I went along to that, and turns out I could do it very well. I mean, I even now definitely believe that every single person can do what I do. Like there's nothing inverted commas special about me because we're all souls having a human experience. Like we all came from somewhere. We're all here. And, ideally we're all going to go somewhere after this journey as well. So
when you say you believe others can do what you do, what is it that you say that you do then? So is it someone like, are you feeling someone like walk in the room here? Like how do you like what is it that
I'm
you
a
do?
believer here. Like Ross is a skeptic, I'm the believer.
No, I'm not so much a skeptic.
Because I've had things happen to me where I was like, I like have that energy of the person at the end of the bed.
Yeah. It's very common. So so to round back to your actual question, because I realized I just did a really big loop then anyway. But yeah, as a psychic medium, I have the ability to communicate with spirits. So I can connect with those that have crossed over, and I have the ability to see, hear, and feel them.
Yeah.
So to sort of break that down further, when I'm able to see them, like I will picture the exact scenario or room that I'm in, but if I close my eyes, there's sort of shadows, or I can actually see people.
Right.
And they will also show me their faces half the time. Like I can actually describe what they look like. They will show me significant items that they're wearing.
Yeah.
The ability to hear, I can hear their voices, or sometimes they will use my internal voice to talk to me.
Yeah.
But if they're speaking, it sounds like someone's down the end of the hallway yelling out at me. And they will also play sounds, like I can hear music. If they, for example, if they like to use a chainsaw, I'll hear a chainsaw. Like they really will bring in, random things like that.
Yeah, right.
Ed Gein.
Anyone with a chainsaw. Like,
It's connected to Ed Gein.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And hearing, that was hearing, and then to feel, that's connecting with the emotional side of things as well. So I can definitely feel their emotions. I can also feel the emotions and connections with people I'm reading. But it also goes into a physical sense. If someone had a heart attack, my heart will get sore. If they had head issues, I'll get cloudy through the head.
As we were starting this podcast, you said, has anyone had a toothache? And then Jacob, sitting back there, was like, no,
Jacob walked out the room and I was like, it's probably Daisy. And then Jacob walks back in and he's like, what did you just say?
What did you want to, what did you describe?
Well,
see, that was a really interesting moment as well, because we hadn't even really begun the podcast. So it is actually really rare to me to feel things like that. So I was just sort of sitting here having a chat with you all, and my back right tooth got really sore, and I knew it was a spiritual thing, it wasn't mine. And I was like, well, someone definitely has a toothache because Spirit's showing me or bringing it into the circle. And then I was able to describe to Jacob what was going on with the teeth and the angles and everything like that. But that is really rare. So to even go back to the point you made before, Ross, about being on a bus, like if I am out in public, my boundaries are very strong. So I don't allow energy to necessarily approach me like that. And Spirit's also very respectful. So if I'm out in public or if I'm sitting with friends, they're not going to interrupt, or they're not going to
all spirits
jump through.
Because Ellie watches murder, horror stuff, and you've
Crime
seen
scenes.
what was the you've obviously got these possessions and are all spirits nice? Is it the character of the person when they were here, and is that what comes? Is it always a friendly thing, or is it?
Yeah, are they always polite and? Or do they come in at random times where you're like, oh, that's really weird?
No, not for me, because my boundaries are very strong. But not all spirits necessarily are nice in that sense, because it's all energy and it's all frequency. Even science understands it as that. We all have energy, and once someone crosses over their essence or their soul or their personality, it doesn't just disappear. It just transforms sense.
Yeah.
But for example, with people that were maybe a little bit negative in the physical world, they won't come forward as negative people because those emotions were all human emotions. So once the soul transcends back to the afterlife, it leaves all the bullshit behind in a lot of ways. They can definitely reflect on it. They understand it. They won't come forward still holding that resentment or anger, or, some people can be really mean or vicious. They really let that go because they understand that was their soul journey, and those emotions are what taught them lessons. But the lessons and the journey is now complete.
Yeah.
With their passings. But for example, even with haunted houses, so to use the energy, like if I put my hand down on the couch, lift it up, under the right lighting conditions, like with UV, you'll be able to see my handprint still because I've left my energy behind. So when you're in places that are stereotypically a bit negative, like hospitals, prisons, like mental asylums, you can just imagine the build-up of energy.
Yeah.
So souls, even though they cross over, a lot of their energy is still attracted to that place because of the significance of what that place meant or the emotional connection to it. and it was really negative and it was really low vibrational and it was a bad place for them to be. So that's where I believe hauntings and ghosts can come from, because the negative energy is still drawn to that spot. They're not necessarily trapped there. Well, they're not trapped there, but they can still go.
Right.
This is just a question from me, but have you ever had like an experience that like really scared you or shook you?
Not really, because to go into what I sort of touched on before with energy and frequency, like I operate at a very high frequency when I connect with spirit. So our loved ones that watch over us or guide us and the people that we were connected with on earth, they are from that frequency, because they're good people. We love them. We connect with them in that sense. So the analogy that I use, it's sort of like I'm an inner city nightclub with a really strong dress code and guest list.
Yeah.
Like I'm not just letting anyone in.
Were you always like that when you first started, or was that something that you gradually developed?
I definitely developed it over time, because even at the very start as David the medium, I saw myself and my ability to be able to connect with spirit kind of more like a party trick. So I used to be out and I'm like, oh, this is fun. Like I can connect with spirit. Like, so, but it was the mindset of it. So then you're letting everything in, of course.
Yeah.
And then over time it's, I've developed and I'm still developing, of course, but as I've developed, the boundaries came up even stronger. So just to kind of keep out energies that I didn't want to connect with, or just to give myself the peace as well, because 99% of the time I say I'm just David.
Yeah.
Like I am David the medium publicly, but I'm not connecting with spirit. I'm not necessarily feeling things if I'm walking down the street or if I'm hanging out with friends. I'm just David.
You can turn it on.
You can 100%. Yeah, I can. It's like so the good analogy to use, it's like a radio frequency. So if you're listening to one station, but you want to change another station, you turn the frequency. So I have the ability in my brain to change the frequency to hit different levels of energy.
That is incredible.
Yeah, and everyone has that. Like, like if you did a mentoring class, both of you would be able to do it.
Yeah, right.
Let's do it.
Come on, Ross. Should I start mentoring?
I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm doing it. Do it with me.
You'd be able to, 100%. Like you're like both of you. Like, do you ever get gut feelings on things?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what it is. That's part of it.
Yeah.
You're just tuning into those.
And both of you actually have a very strong connection. Like I can only imagine the amount of times that you're thinking of Ellie and then she'll call you, or like you'll text each other at the same time. You know, things like that. It's all connections. Yeah.
Had so many experiences like that. But I didn't have experiences where I felt like a person, like a spirit or an entity has been around me until after my dad died.
Yeah. That
was the experience that like opened me up to actually believing in that. Before I didn't really kind of believe in that. There were certain things that happened and you were like, fuck, that's inexplainable.
Yeah, when you see something with your own eyes, it's like sort of like you've got to see it to believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that was me. I needed to see Santa Claus, so I never believed in Santa Claus. So when I had an sorry, Daisy, when I did have that first experience, which is I could not explain it, I could not piece that stuff together. I was like, okay, well, maybe I need to look in other areas. And I get it, energy is transferable. Why energy moves, it doesn't. You can't just destroy energy.
It just doesn't disappear.
It goes into a different form.
Yeah.
So looking into and exploring those sorts of things. Like it's fascinating.
And it does take a lot of strength to do that, because the way that I look at it, like even in our own culture or Western society in general, like mediumship and spirituality is something that is considered a bit woo-woo, or it's considered like a bit sort of like, weird people do that. And it's not portrayed positively in movies, for example. Like if there's ever a medium or anyone who connects with spirits in movies, it's always a horror movie.
Or she's got glasses like that thick and she's got 400 bangles on her arms, crazy hair. Like,
exactly. So, and as guys especially, like we do sort of see things that are a bit more black and white, because it is, as you mentioned, seen is believing. And I think it should be that case. I don't think anyone should be an open believer of anything. It has to be about experience and about your own learned growth with it in a lot of ways. But my whole mission is to bring spirituality mainstream, because it's, as I say, it's not supernatural, it's actually just supernatural. And
what a tagline.
I know, I'll get that tattooed on my arm.
You need that trademarked. You need that trademark. That's like David's thing.
What's spiritual mean to you? You're not talking God, Jesus, Allah, Buddha. You're not talking that spiritual, or are you? What do you mean by spiritual?
Like for me, it's just the understanding and the connection of a higher power, that there has to be more to life than what we see, because what is the whole point of this if there's nothing that we're learning in a bigger sense, or if we at the end of our time on earth we die, like what was the fucking point there?
Is that
So it's all about understanding lessons that we go through on earth as well. I think there's so much, because if we're able to break things down and understand why things happen the way that they happen, what's it actually teaching us, Like those are human lessons as well,
Yeah.
but there is always a bigger purpose and a bigger meaning to it. And that represents the spirituality for me. So from a religious perspective, I think, like, I wasn't raised religious. I don't necessarily have religious belief. We're not taught the benefits of what we can understand. So when I first connected with spirit, and that was in the mentoring class that I did, and I remember, like, I was also very, not nervous, but apprehensive, but curious to go to it, because I was like, well, she thinks I can do it. I've never had an experience with it, but we'll see. So it was very low key. Like, there was only sort of 6 of us in the room, all around the couch in a house on a Wednesday night. And I remember getting up in front of the room, and my mentor said to me, she says, just say whatever you think, whatever you feel. If you see anything, if you hear anything, just say it. And, you know, I'm a short guy. I'm only 5'8". And I remember standing up in front of the class, and I was like, oh, here we go. Okay, well, if anyone's there, like, let's see. And I closed my eyes, and I suddenly felt like I was really tall. Like, I felt like if I was to open my eyes, I'd be looking down over the room.
Yeah.
And I got really sharp pains in my chest, and I felt like a man still. But I said to her, I was like, well, I feel like I'm a really tall man who's had, like, issues with the heart. And then she started bursting out crying. She's like, well, that was my former partner, and, like, he never comes forward in class. And that was the very first spirit I ever connected with.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, okay, like, it does change something within you when you suddenly see a different side of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I think everyone in some way should experience. I'm not saying that everyone needs to go have a reading. I'm not saying everyone needs to become a medium, but it's just that
They should, though.
well, ideally, but, you know, there's benefits to it.
Yeah.
But for everyone, like, it would be so silly for any of us to think that this is all that there is.
Yeah.
And not even from a spiritual perspective. Like, I don't understand mass. I don't
Yeah.
know why I brought up mass anyway, because I maybe don't know the benefits of mass in the physical world. But, like,
Yeah.
like, you know, I don't understand the history of yoga.
Yeah.
I don't know, again, why I'm bringing topics like that up, but there's so much that we don't know or that we don't see, but yet in our own soul journeys or in our own day-to-day life, we think we know it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just about remaining open. And then from that onwards, I started reading, like, friends of friends and family members of my friends, and then started reading some friends that, like...
That's when you start charging people.
well, it was actually fun.
Yeah, look, mates rates for you guys, but it's going to cost them extra.
I call it an energy exchange, because for all of us, if we're giving someone our time and our energy,
Yeah.
it should
you're
be
deserving
repaid
of
back in
something
some
in
way.
return.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so they can buy me a carton of... I was going to say a carton of cigarettes, but I don't smoke, so maybe don't buy me a
Not
carton
the
of cigarettes.
cigs, dear.
Carton of ciggies. It's a good Gold Coast little thing going on there.
No, we don't do cigs here. We do vapes on the Gold Coast.
Buy me a raspberry vape and see what happens.
Heard the banana ones are really good.
Oh, I don't know.
So how do you actually on that though? I mean, I think that's fair. I think all, you know, exchange of services. I think that there's no problem with that. Have you ever had anyone say, and he's like, well, if you're doing this, why do you? You know, again, I don't know if you charge for this stuff. I don't know if you do private stuff, and you know, you've got your tour, which I think we should talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like,
Because you've just done a big tour as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you ever get those, you know, people? And again, not everyone for everyone. It's like you don't need to be appealing for everyone, but you obviously know what you're trying to do and who you're trying to be there for. What's your response to those? You know, again, I'm a little bit cynical, but then there's those like haters almost. And would say stuff about this space. What do you say to them? Do you even bother? Do you try and be like, just give it a go, or are you just like, maybe it's not for you?
Yeah, 100%.
Like if hot yoga's not for you, it's not for you.
Yeah, and other people's opinions of me are none of my business.
Yep.
So if you've got an issue with what I do, that's a you problem.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with me. Like, and from the perspective of like charging for readings, my readings are completely free. My time and my energy is not.
Yeah. Period.
So I've only got 24 hours. Not even in a day, because there's only literally 12 hours in a day, because half of it's not anyway. You've only got 24 hours in a cycle, and you've only got so much energy.
Yeah.
So if I'm giving that to someone, great, I'm more than happy to. Like, we can sit down for 40, my readings go for 45 minutes. We can sit down and talk about the weather for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't want to do that. They want me to connect with spirit. That's fine. Reading's completely free. My time and my energy is not.
Yeah.
And every single person should value their time and their energy.
Absolutely.
Every single person gives their time and their energy in a workspace.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, if you're an accountant, perfect, you're giving your time and energy, people will pay you to be an accountant.
Yeah.
It's just the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All
Should we Well, what do you think? How do we start?
Yeah, how do we start something like
Well,
this?
have you already started?
You're probably sitting there and you're like, oh my God, these things are coming through.
Yeah.
But I have to wait.
Spirit knows the game. They know why I was here.
Yeah.
So what I want you both to do is to do a handstand. No, I'm kidding. All right, yeah.
I actually can do it.
Ross can. I need a bit of wall assistance.
No, I love it. So have either of you actually had a reading before? I know you were sort of talking about your experiences, but like, what have you ever done something like this before, Ross?
Yeah. And look, one of them was in Hollywood on
was not real.
psychic
It
readings.
was a crazy
And
lady.
honestly, it was me, Ellie, my little brother, and Ellie's dad. And we were just like, let's all give it a go. And then there's all confessed stories. But then there was a reading that we did a little while ago.
A few years ago.
And that was fascinating. Like,
the way that she sort of did it was like, it was just on a phone call, because the way she sort of sees things is like looking at a white wall. It's like watching a movie. So we're not on the phone to her, because she's like explained it that it's almost like sitting in a movie theater watching a movie.
Yeah.
And if you're talking to someone, it's kind of like they're sitting in front of you and like blocking your view of like what's going on. So that's why she sort of like operated that way. But a lot of the things that she said blew my mind.
Yeah.
And it was ultimately really only a reading for me, but then she also started having things coming through for Ross about like memories of his dad, like that, like things that I'd never posted about my dad.
Like you couldn't have known that.
Yeah.
You just,
Yeah.
you crazy lady.
Like,
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that was the best reading that I've ever had.
Yeah.
Like
we were both in tears.
Yeah, we were both in tears.
Yeah.
So we were
Yeah.
like,
But she was pretty amazing. But yeah, that's the only experience I've really ever had with someone who was actually connected through something, but not in the way of like my dad talking to her.
Yeah. Okay.
Through to
I
me.
get it. Yeah.
In the sense of like she would pick things out that I had of his and like things like that, and like recounted like memories and things like that. Yeah.
So like, even as I've seen with you, like understandably, I'm David the Medium, like I wanted to be able to connect. So there are definitely things that come forward. So when I connect as a medium, we have sort of touched on it in some ways already, but it is connecting with the essence of who your loved ones were. Because even though the physical body is now deceased, everything that they were, everything they represent, their memories, their personalities, their journey on earth is transferred to the afterlife, and they are still around us because we're connected with them. It's going to be fun. Like, it's actually going to be, I think it's going to be really lighthearted, and maybe a lot of that was maybe due to the other episodes that you've filmed today, where you've really, as you mentioned, touched on grief and all that.
Yeah.
But as a disclaimer, I do know both your fathers have crossed over. Let's get into it.
There's other people who have also crossed over that might come through as well,
Yeah.
who we were really close with. So.
Yeah, there's a younger energy around that as well. I'm not saying that you've lost anyone yet. Well, maybe you have, obviously, because there's a younger sort of energy floating around even as you talk. But I do want to instantly go straight to you, Ross, because even when I walked in here today, like Spirit was like beelining straight into your.
Oh shit! Here we go.
And actually, I instantly seen you guys getting married. It's a reference of the wedding instantly. But there is sort of this validation coming from Spirit about, we will talk about things today that you've actually never talked about. Maybe not even as a couple, but maybe not even said publicly or said to anyone else. And where does, can anyone connect with Reese?
Yep.
Don't tell me how, but still Earthside? Yeah, perfect. So we do have an older gentleman that's also referencing like Reese, connecting at the same time. There's the validation of also having conversations with him, or it's a good time to talk to him, David. He says, I'm the star of the show. Just your reaction, I love it. Because Spirit instantly jumped around you and sort of grabbed you from behind.
Really?
In a good way.
Yeah.
It's like a hug.
Not like checking me out.
No, yeah. And he says, Dave, it's so good to talk about this. We've never talked about this before. Does that Peter connect with either of you? Oh, okay, you can. Where does Peter connect?
That's my dad.
Perfect. Peter's my grandfather, so he gave me that name very clearly. He says, thanks for having a glass for me. And I can taste wine in my mouth as well. So I'm not saying that he was a wine drinker or that you cheers him, but he's definitely got a connection with wine or spirits or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect, because he's cheersing you at the moment.
Yeah.
He says there was so much stresses in life, Dave. He's so funny because he's kind of looking at me, and he's like he says, "Am I doing this okay? Am I doing I don't want to go too heavy too soon." I'm like, Pete, you can take whatever you want. Like,
Do the most, Peter.
yeah.
Do your worst.
Because he says, I've never been able to talk like this before. And he says, but more than anything else, like, I want my boy, being you, to know. It says there's nothing that he could ever do that would let me down. He says, I never want him to feel like that. And where does like Richard or Rick connect as well?
Rick's my dad.
Oh, perfect. So I don't know if these two gentlemen knew each other.
Yep.
They've come forward holding hands, kind of like jumping forward like best mates. They've gone and just run towards. With all respect, both your dads are really handsome guys as well. Like, they've got this suaveness to them. And what's the connection with New Zealand for your father? Or are either of you going to New Zealand soon?
We've been to New Zealand.
We went to New Zealand briefly after Dad passed away. Dad did go to New Zealand a couple of times.
Are you feeling hot at the moment or sweaty?
No.
No, because Spirit just threw water on you.
Arms are a little bit like...
Knees weak, arms are heavy.
Yeah.
Mum's spaghetti.
Where Peter goes into it as well, he says, I never want Ross to ever feel like there's anything that he would do differently because he thinks a lot about me at night, Dave. And he says, I'm apologizing for interrupting his sleep, but I know when he lays his head down, he says he always thinks about it or he always goes back to me. He says, both of my kids, which represents both of you because it's both your fathers talking at the same time. God, they've really jumped straight into it because they wanted to hit really heavy topics instantly, but they said it's nothing bad, but it's sort of like in a lot of ways. He says, I'm so proud of Ross, though. I never want him to think anything differently. There's nothing that he should have done differently when it comes to me. And upon reflection, like he says, we all think of things that we wished we did differently. But he says, I've got no regrets. And he says, I'm responsible for me. He says, I made some bad decisions in life, Dave. And he says, but I own that. And was there also a period with your dad that maybe you weren't speaking?
Yeah.
Because he takes complete ownership of that with the lack of communication. So that's why I never want you to feel like there's anything you should have done differently because I'm always your father. So Reese your brother?
Reese is my brother. One of my brothers, yeah.
Do you have 3 brothers or are you one of 3?
No, I have 4 brothers.
But one's completely out of the picture.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll see where we go there as well because it's sort of the reference of mental health with the brothers at the same time. Especially with Reese, I'm not saying that Reese has mental health issues, but I think we all do in some ways, really. But like, there's the element of just being drawn into sort of looking after. He also apologizes for how I treat your mother, which would be. Then Colleen connect at all? Colleen or Colin even? If you can't connect, it's a bit vague for me. So if you can't connect instantly, don't worry.
No.
And maybe this was something that you're also doing today. Maybe it's a conversation you've actually had with each other. But he says, when it comes to Ross, Dave, he says, he never let me down. Don't ever feel like that you could have. And he says, because did he get in, like, a very personal question, did he get in trouble with like law? Like legal, like getting... Like,
he was being sued when he was dying.
Perfect.
But he was like, we proved it. Like, we won.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah.
So he just took me, it's a Melbourne symbol, but he showed me the county court in Melbourne, which is just legally.
Melbourne?
Essentially
That's
legal.
where the federal court is where we went.
Ah, perfect. Okay, so right around the corner from what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because he's just referencing legal issues around business.
Yep.
And yeah, so the element of, because I know you mentioned that was happening when he was crossed over. But things also finalized after he crossed over because there's still the elements of how, like the name, not the name gets cleared, but maybe it is actually the name gets cleared, but it's how everything sort of smooths over even after I cross over.
Yeah. It did happen after he crossed over.
Everyone's massaging the back of your neck as well. So whether you're feeling like sore through there or like tense, but it's like
Yeah.
It's the element of the spiritual weight of the world on your shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he says December will be good. I know, unfortunately, your dad, how he passed.
Yeah.
Was it Peter that had cancer? Yeah. And I don't want you to tell me what type, but he says, but Ross will never go through that. So if it could be considered, I don't necessarily think it is necessarily considered genetic or hereditary, but he says Ross won't have that. I'm also having really strong issues with the heart right now as well. So that can be people that do pass from heart attacks or issues with heart disease. That's also connecting more with a female kind of energy. So if you can't connect instantly with that, because I'm not really giving you much to work with, but there is a female that does come forward with heart energy. Oh, I love Rick. He just had his hand and he put it right on your face like that. And he says, it's so good to talk like this, Dave, because even though things about me have been brought up before, which you even mentioned yourself, he says, I've never been able to talk about this. Like, he says, I've never been able to talk like this either. He says, Ellie's not short for Eleanor, is it? I just heard the name Eleanor in my head. So if neither of you can't connect with that, don't stress. I'll work out where we're going with it. He says, with everything that happened with me, he says, you remember I'm responsible for me. He says, forgive your mother. Because he says, because I have. It's a very personal question, but do you sort of look at your mum in some ways sort of being responsible for the stresses that maybe did cause dad's issues?
Not like responsible, but I hold her accountable for.
Yeah, accountable's a much better word than responsible. Yeah,
I hold her accountable for like.
Yeah, because
her actions.
For what? Sorry,
her actions that led him to. Yeah,
that's exactly. He acknowledges that, but it is the element of like, I'm responsible for me.
Yeah,
and he says, we both know she doesn't have that power.
That sounds exactly like.
Yeah. He's so suave. He's kind of like he kind of walks in the room. Whereas your dad's like this really sort of straighty 180 kind of business guy. Like, he doesn't come forward wearing a suit, but you can definitely picture him on a boardroom table.
Yeah.
Whereas your dad comes forward and he's like,
yeah, literally.
Kind of like you can imagine him like fonzing into the room, like sliding through.
He was so charismatic.
Yeah. He says, I got rid of my gut as well. He says, I'm not fat. He says, I just got rid of my gut.
My dad?
Yeah.
His beer belly?
Well, he's got abs to me. So if he had a beer belly before he crossed over, he's like, I got rid of my gut. He looks at you. He's like, I don't drink beer.
Is that why you don't have a beer gut anymore, Dad?
But again, sort of touching on the elements of how we can sometimes see relationships and how we can sometimes, so even as I'm talking, I'm losing breath, which is the element of lost communication or miscommunication of how we think or how we communicate. Rick goes into that with the reference in your mum, and sometimes the sort of, because even though she maybe has barbs or she has attacks going out, he puts up a shield spiritually anyway. So it's sort of like she doesn't have that power to affect me like that. We can look at the elements of accountability, but it's more so than anything else. He says it's exactly like I said before, like, I'm responsible for me. No one has that ability to affect my journey like that. There's issues with money there as well. I don't know whether that was with mum or not, but he goes like this and goes like that.
Oh my God.
And grabs your wrist. Do you have a bracelet he's...
I was going to wear his watch today.
I was just about to say, because I was like, it could be for Ross, but I wanted to reference a watch. Because the reason I've got this bracelet is because I don't wear watches. And he grabbed it, and I was like, it might be a watch. It's not working though.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Because he's referencing the watch that doesn't tick.
I've left it like that.
He says, that's fine. He says, in honor of me, remember the times. He says, you can fix it. He says, it would look good on her.
It does.
He says, it's not cheap.
No, it's not.
But he says, thank you for still talking to it. Because it's the element of holding. And I understand that we can definitely do that with our loved ones. Like when we have their items, their energy's on it, like we were talking before with energy. He calls himself Ricardo, but I don't think that's his full name. He's just being smart.
Oh, that is his full name.
Oh, it actually is.
Yeah.
No, I thought it couldn't be.
Yeah.
He goes, Ricardo's watch. He's speaking
Oh
with,
my God. Stop.
what's your heritage?
My dad grew up in the UK, but his family are from like Caribbean islands.
Perfect, yeah. Because he didn't look Caribbean to me, but he kind of did. And then he was like, but then he was really playing it up.
Yeah.
And then in my head, I was like, Gonzalez, is that Mexican? Like, I don't know. But he does play it up with me. Spirit also with you, Ross, put a baseball cap on your head. I'm not saying that you've got a baseball cap that belongs to everyone, but it's a symbol of it's just a symbol of family connections of how we play. But I want to sort of see where they go with that as well. You've got the upgrade in December. When's your birthday? Or both of you December?
I'm December.
You're December? When are you Cancerian? When's your birthday?
February 5th.
Aquarian? Really?
Yeah.
Usually don't like Aquarian women. No, not
Bitch.
Well, my grandmothers were Aquarian. No, I'm just teasing. Yeah. So it really is led by the fathers today in a lot of ways. There, as we said, there is younger energy, and there is also someone who did pass very quickly, because when I do the symbol for the click, it's a sudden or unexpected passing. As adults, it's not surprising that sometimes like grandparents and all that can cross over. So we are connecting with that. Where's the mother figure for you, Ross? Mum's still Earthside?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where's like... it's likely to be a grandmother, but I wouldn't necessarily call her the mother figure. It actually feels like a sibling for one of you, but it's not like a birth sibling, so it can sometimes be the people we consider family. And it's a little bit vague, so if neither of you can't connect with this instantly, don't stress. But there's a sort of a reference to feminine cancer. So for me, that can be breast, ovarian, cervical, things like that. That's coming forward quite strong now. Does that make sense with it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Where does that connect, if you don't mind me asking?
2 of our friends
Yeah.
died of breast cancer.
They're like a mother figure, but not a...
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Not that
the
mother.
younger energies as well, obviously being friends.
She was, one of them was like my mum.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's cheersing us as well, actually. And with her, she references my illness, Dave. Oh, she just kissed you on the forehead. She really kissed you in the middle of your third eye, which is a spiritual thing. And she references sort of being unwell and then getting better and then being unwell again. So there's sort of like this health journey, even though everything sort of happens quick.
That's not her.
Oh, so is that the other one that had cancer?
Yeah.
Okay. She feels younger though. Is she younger than, how old? Don't tell me too much, because I'll sort of see where we go with it. But there's the reference of chest, breasts in this case. And it's like I'm good, and then I'm unwell, and then I'm good again. But then it's sort of like when I get sick again, everything happens really quickly because it just went wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it may have metastasized to other parts of the body, or it could have just been really aggressive when it came back.
Yeah.
Again, she's very protective over the top of you.
Yeah.
It's not like the mother energy that we have with us before, but it's more so like she's kind of actually got a sword and a shield. So from spirit, she's a real protector of you.
That's so her.
She punches you, but in a good way. She's like, leans over and just smacks Ross on the chest. So you can only assume you probably knew her. Now, the mother figure with breast cancer for you, it's not a warning whatsoever, because I'm not worried about your health. Keep like left side for you, especially through here. Like if you feel any lumps or if there's anything that feels tenderness there, it's not anything to be concerned by. Just watch over it.
Yeah.
Either of you have your appendix out, because my appendix is playing up. It's not a warning again, but just there could be something going on.
Might be
there.
because my jeans are really tight.
No. That's more belly button. So you're fine. Because my appendix scar just got triggered. This is a good future thing. I think one of you is going to have issues with the appendix next year.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Saw it here first, October 2024.
I was going to say, it's not going to be me.
So the appendix is the spiritual symbol. It stores stress and fear. So when we don't clear stress and fear within our bodies, or we don't process it and heal from it, it actually will trigger the appendix or the pancreas. God, you're bringing forward so many different energies. Wow. But you're completely led by Peter and Ricardo. Again, very brief. If you can't connect instantly, don't worry. But spirit references impact, which is usually car crash or motorcycle, pedestrian, bicycle. Probably a younger energy again, but it feels like it's from a longer time ago. I imagine that doesn't make sense. If you can't connect instantly, again, don't worry. It's not a warning either. When we reference health or events like that, they're not saying it's going to happen. Unless they make it clear that there can sometimes be things with health, but no one's worried by it. Both the fathers are going back into the element of being incredibly proud of the conversations that you've had. But at the same time, even though you've been, because there's the element of transparency with you've mentioned it yourself with the conversations you had with each other, but it's also the element of don't hold back now, or don't feel like with everything, don't feel guilty for talking about us in ways that maybe aren't always positive. And both the fathers sometimes say that because it doesn't reflect anything on how much we feel for both of you. On your wedding day, because Spirit instantly showed me that at the start. So they're referencing cufflinks. So that might be for you, Ross. On your wedding day? Did you choose not to wear them in the end?
Yeah, I can't remember. I was too busy worrying about my dress, which was see-through.
I think you had them but didn't wear them.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Because he's referencing the cufflinks, but they're more in it looks kind of like a dark blue box, but it's sort of like one of those like a grey box.
Dark blue box.
Ecclesia box.
Yeah, ecclesia box.
Yeah.
Your father completely references walking you down the aisle, and he says, "But she had me on her." I don't want you to explain that because I want him to show me because he's been very insistent on it. Was there a photo of him with you when he walked down the aisle, or was he at the end of the aisle in a photo? Or
No,
both?
I had him on my a photo of him and I on my bouquet.
Good. Because he references holding your hand. Oh, probably because you're holding the bouquet as well. But he references holding your hand and walking you down the aisle, and then waiting at the end. He's only teasing. He says, and then I went and had a nap. So I missed the wedding, but but both of them in particular, because there's a reference of, I don't know whether if you have done this yet, but Spirit would actually love you to do it if you haven't, because do you know when we're in Bali and we do those sort of like Chinese lanterns that float up to the sky?
Yeah. There's
a references of writing, unless you've done it already, but they're both, everyone, it's not just these two, it's everyone up here referencing writing it in or writing notes to heaven, but then sending it up.
I've actually wanted to do the lanterns. Yeah, we've actually spoken about that. Yeah.
So take that as validation. Not only do they know that you have conversations of it, there is also the will to do it.
Yeah.
There will, I just saw Burley Beach in my head, so there's actually going to be, I don't know personally if there's anything coming up, there will be an event where you will be able to do that in Burley.
Yeah.
And I was referencing Dubai in my head as well, so I don't know whether are you going there soon?
No, we had our 10-year anniversary in Dubai.
Oh, perfect.
We've spoken about we still haven't done a honeymoon.
Yeah.
So we've spoken about going there when we've got the time.
Yeah, I just saw Burj Khalifa in my head. Peter, he would know it in spirit, but he's using my memories. He goes, no, they're staying at the Palm Royale. So they've got no choice but to stay at the Palm Royale. They are showing me Dubai, so definitely something about that will come up there as well. There is also work opportunities for both of you in Dubai because they're referencing signing of contracts, so there will be something that will also take you there for work opportunities. You can maybe combine the holiday with it.
Yeah.
It's 5/6, so it'll be May, June next year. More so with the candles or the elements of sending it up. If there has been something you have talked about, spirits validating, write down the wishes. So not only write down messages to us or things that, maybe you're still thinking at that time, write down wishes of also what you're wanting to achieve. Tad loves the list, and I know what the list is. Yeah. He just said 117. I was like, that's 117 reasons for me.
Oh my God.
He says, well, she's changed her mind, hasn't she?
This is literally how he talks.
Yeah, he's taking the piss. He's very like, whereas Peter is like, he's got a real fun energy to him, but he also sits back, but he's like, got this real reserved, but not, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because he's just really sort of straighty 180 put together. Whereas Ricardo is like flamenco dancing in the background with me. Like,
yeah, he's
just moving
very
his shoulders like this.
Very outgoing.
Yeah. The reference of Los Angeles again. He's referencing Donald Trump.
My dad.
So where do you want to go with Donald? Please say he's winning.
Yeah, I reckon your dad would have wanted him to win.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, 100.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because they're referencing both of you doing all the heavy lifting or doing all the hard work, because with conversations of things that you wanted him to mention, so him being me, it's sort of like my kids, Dave, everyone up here, they already know, we already know, say that again. Yeah, I'm in a bonded energy. I know this is all your personal belongings. I'm so drawn inside football though. Like everyone keeps picking it up and throwing it up in the air. And I know the alien statues. You told me the story there. Does anyone have like a life-size one?
Yeah.
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 Because I'm looking at that, but it's huge.
Yeah.
So your dad loves that. Where is that life-size? Like now I'm fascinated. But where is the life-size alien statue?
So it's actually at home, and it's not like a full body. It's actually the full head helmet. I bought it for him.
He loves it.
Mm.
He just put it. Well, not that he put it on, but he's like putting it on. But it's sort of like holding both hands up with walking through.
Yeah.
The alien, but it's massive. Did you ever find yourself when you? How do I translate that? Because he says when she's not thinking, she'll draw it. Do you ever draw or sketch? Before, well, maybe not then, but your dad wants you to. Because he says she doesn't have ADHD. It's sort of like, do you joke about that, or have you been diagnosed with that?
No, I haven't been diagnosed, but like
self-diagnosed.
Yeah.
Self-diagnosed.
Peter's like, well, that's TikTok. So yeah. So maybe stop watching videos on TikTok. But self-diagnosed. He says, this is your dad, because Rick goes, well, if it was real, she wouldn't be able to pay attention to anything. My daughter just knows what to spend her time on and what she doesn't, because when you're actually focused on something, or when you've actually got passion behind something, you will be 100% on it.
Yeah.
He says when you can't be fucked with it, that's when you just sort of tune out. So it's not, he says, but she does do 10 tasks at once.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like you'll be doing something in the kitchen, and then suddenly you'll be in the lounge room, and then it's sort of like, and then you're actually cleaning your wardrobe, and you're like, oh, I've got to go back to the kitchen.
Not
so
for real.
Yeah, like he sort of shows you doing like 10 things around the house. But what I would love you to do, both of you in some ways, see, they're referencing you've probably already done it, because they're referencing journaling. So it's the element of writing down thoughts or writing down. Yeah. So have you started doing that already?
Yeah, I do. I like, especially when he died, I did do a lot of journaling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go back over it, because he says you haven't read it for a while. So I don't know whether you probably don't read it every day, of course, but there is a reference of reading over all the things that maybe you don't even understand more now. So it's sort of like if you were to read it now, processing of emotions. I just saw you on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
Stop.
He literally just showed you in the jungle.
Did I win?
Have you been on it yet?
No.
Yeah, I know you haven't. That will happen if you want it. Do you actually really want to go on?
Yeah, I think that would be the funniest experience, but I went on Big Brother VIP.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
2 years ago, got pipped at the post.
From winning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who won?
Exactly.
That was such a bullshit experience.
Yeah.
It was rigged.
No shade, but like shade.
But all of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it. I went on for Wildlife Warriors.
Yeah.
The Irwin's charity.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like I just got pipped at the post, and if I were to go on I'm a Celebrity, it kind of gives me like that second shot to try and win that money for them.
There's what they're also bringing up in my head is actually Australia's Next Top Model, which I know isn't around anymore. but I wouldn't be surprised if there's something around modeling also coming forward, not necessarily with you being the model, but also with either being the mentor, the judge, or something to do with the industry from that perspective of being above.
Yeah.
But as I tuned out, I literally sitting in the jungle with you around the thing. I'm definitely not going on. So it's all yours.
Do you want to come on with me?
Absolutely
Let's go.
not. No, my hair would fall off. No.
My hair would fall out. This is not my hair.
We'd both be sitting there, just be like, oh, like who are those two? It's Ali Gonzalez and David Amin. I'm like, really?
Me with my mullet. You don't have any hair.
Yeah. It's like the stress really got to him, didn't it? So his dad says, I'm looking forward to the jungle. He says, I'm not going in. He says, I'll watch. He's so funny because, like, with all respect to Ricardo, he's kind of got like real gay qualities. Because even when he says, I'm not going in, he's like, no, go in. Like,
Oh, he was very scared of like spiders.
yeah, well, it's sort of like, it's even like getting my hands dirty, even though he's like got that manly aspect where he can get his hands dirty.
Yeah.
So, like, I just don't want to get my hands dirty in the jungle. Like,
Yeah,
you know
he's
what I
just
mean?
like,
So, and he says, don't get the, what? Oh, no, the tattoo for me. Do you have a tattoo for your dad? No, because he says, oh, I'm tattooing your arm, and I can literally see your arm, so I know you don't have tattoos on them, but they're going right down there for me. And I know you don't have that either.
Would you put a bumper sticker on a Bentley?
Well, if you live
Just a joke. I'm not being serious.
If you live in the Gold Coast, you might. I don't know. Yeah. What is with all the personalized number plates up here? I don't know. Like,
I don't know.
It's very unique.
Yep.
He feels like he's got overweight or he's got issues with weight. I don't know whether that's something that was always there. Dad's like picking on you. He said, well, Ross used to be bigger. But he's been... You look great now.
I did.
Yeah.
A lot bigger.
Yeah. But yeah, in that sense, they're both incredibly proud of the conversations that you've had today. You know, I understand a lot of that was around grief and loss, and both incredibly proud of how my children have healed each other. And it's okay to sometimes feel disconnected from each other. But it's all a journey. It's all a journey. Now, around your birthday, which I know you validated as the 12th month, could be the 12th or the 12th, but 12th month. You're going to have electrical issues in the home, and that will be them symbolizing that it's showing you that we're here. Do you have lights flickering in the kitchen already?
Yes, we do.
It's both your fathers. Because both of them held hands and then flickered the lights, but I could see a kitchen sink.
The lights are over the kitchen, like over the top of the kitchen sink.
Perfect. Know that it's them.
I fucking knew it.
Yeah. And if you actually ask, is it still happening now? Or
Yes.
Yeah. So if you ask them to stop it, it actually will stop.
No, I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Haunt me.
Yeah. Haunt me, Daddy.
I love the ghost.
Different meaning when it's your actual father, but yeah. Yeah, they're taking validation for that. Taking responsibility for that, referencing my children and flickering the lights above the kitchen sink, or showing me the kitchen sink with the flickering above me. I do like your space, but I don't know whether either of you are feeling like you're outgrowing it or whether you're wanting change. I think you're suited there. I mean, you're happy to stay where you are for now? Yeah, good, because I like you guys being there. Referencing snakes. Do you get snakes in the Goldie? Well, I guess you would. It's Queensland.
Not where we are, though.
Yeah, not where we are, but
Yeah.
what do you see?
Like, it's kind of like I'm out in like the Byron Forest and I'm seeing like a massive python. I don't know whether that means anything to either of you. It's not I'm a Celebrity Jungle. It's like a really big it feels like I'm in like outback Queensland, or like tropical kind of vibe, referencing a python. It's dreams. Who's had dreams of snakes recently?
Not recently, but I had loads of dreams about snakes when my dad died. Loads.
But they were attacking you though. Yeah. So this snake's not attacking you. That's scary. It would be.
But I love snakes.
Yeah, because they're going in. Yeah, but it's sort of like both of you also. Do you dream?
So what?
Dream?
Yep.
Interesting, because when you go to sleep, your energy goes really deep, and usually people wouldn't dream if they do that. So it'd be fascinating to see what you're actually dreaming about. I want to see if they bring that up, because you're actually. When we dream, I've got this theory. Well, it's not so much of a theory because it's a sort of a spiritual thing, but the soul will travel. So I believe every single night when we dream, we actually connect with our loved ones again. But when we wake up, we don't remember because we're not meant to. But the soul will connect with different powers. So if I was hooked up to a brain monitor at the moment, it would actually show that I'm asleep because my brainwaves go into the same levels as dreaming or light sleep. So when we have dreams of our loved ones in particular, it is 100% them because it's exactly the same as a medium operating in the conscious. What they're sort of showing me, there's dreams in which we are trying to run and I can't move. So I don't know whether either have had that recently, but it's more so an internal projection of where we see ourselves in life. So don't feel like that you're going around in circles or don't feel like you're not making progress. Dad put boxing gloves on you as well. So that, like, do you box now or did you used to box? Like, what's the boxing?
Yeah, I used to be a cage fighter.
That's cool. Not what I was expecting, but I love that. He says, I didn't do that. I'm like, no, I didn't think so, Peter.
He helped introduce me to it, though.
Yeah. Well, he's liking it because he never boxed himself, I can't imagine, but these gloves look old to me. That's the thing, because they look like they were like, antique gloves like that you would see from like the 50s. I'm not saying that's what you've got now unless you do, but like, and then I'll claim it. But like, but he showed me these old sort of boxing gloves like this.
I think he's actually referencing his own hands because he loved to fight.
Maybe, actually. Yeah, he did.
He loved a little biff after a couple of drinks. Old Peter.
Well, he did come forward drinking, to be fair.
Yeah.
I low-key think you could be onto something there because as he goes into it, it's he does say, "I know, but I have regrets around that." Because all he says is that Ross should protect himself. He apologizes to you for that. Because all he says is Ross should protect himself. He should never feel guilty. And he's 100% been in your bedroom at night. And he says, Ross has seen me. So you've actually woken up to him in your bedroom.
Yeah, so like,
what's that about? I'm intrigued.
Ross has told me he's like woken up and seen what he thought someone standing over me once. Someone in the corner.
So it's been the same nights that I've had dreams with him involved. Shadow. Sort of, yeah.
And that's why he's apologizing to you.
Yeah, because he fucking wakes up and he's like, oh, what is that? And I'm like, nothing
it's so
there.
Yeah. It's so there.
Yeah.
And then it either goes away or I start to think there's nothing there.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it's there.
It's there, yeah. Because it's exactly like we were saying before, when we were dreaming, the brainwaves have changed levels, so you're connecting with spirit.
Yeah.
So it is there.
Yeah.
Why I was fascinated by your dreams, because they're representing real life. So it's sort of like you are bringing them forward when you actually wake, essentially. Yeah. And it's not a positive feeling. No. Like, well, it's not anyway, because you don't want to wake up and see it. But like even the dreams that you're having. Again, who's Anna, if you don't mind me asking? Because she doesn't feel old, but she's taken on mother energy again.
She was like my mum.
Oh, your mum.
Yeah, exactly.
The one with cancer?
Yep, breast cancer.
Well,
there was two of them.
Yeah.
Two Annas? No, the two women
two
from before,
of them who were very, very close with me in that motherly sense. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Anna is actually coming forward as a mother in spirit for you. I'm not saying she's little, but she's a woman, obviously. She's not going to be your height, but she just feels really like little. Like I kind of want to, like, she says, no, but like, and I keep saying SD. So I don't know whether that's initials or like
SD.
Like SD. It's
SD?
Yeah.
The SD cards are probably running out of SD.
They says both of them just said in unison. So this is again the whole family circle, and also
Daisy.
Also the fathers. It's actually interesting that she's making that noise because I thought I was taking a drag from a cigarette. So it's like whether anyone ever had like smoking or you're going to come and sit with me. Hello.
Yeah, smoking.
Yeah, like it's kind of like emphysema or lung issues because it's like that kind of like.
So Anna actually had lung cancer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's what came.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. She doesn't blame smoking for that.
Yeah.
Even though she may have smoked, she's like, not smoking, not smoking, not smoking.
Good.
Which where they go with it, because they said, Ross and Ellie had all these things that they were going to talk about today, or all the things that they wanted to talk about with you. They're referencing me. And I can only imagine that, probably had conversations about things maybe you thought were going to get brought up, or things that even we wanted to touch on. Where Spirit goes with it, it's sort of like with all the questions that they have, Dave, they always know the answers within. So it's sort of like, how do I translate that? Because they're referencing how they bring it out. So it's sort of like, you're more than welcome to ask questions, but if there's anything that you thought you wanted to touch on, or anything that you thought Spirit would bring up, the way that I then translate that, it's sort of like, okay, well, what did you feel like the answers would be, or how do you feel like it would be processed? Because that's exactly what they would tell you.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives me the easy way out then, because it's sort of like, I was like, so why don't you just tell me then? Like,
yeah. Is there anything that you want to know? Is there anything that like comes to your mind?
No, not really. I think we had a good couple of hours before this, and some of the things that we spoke about, like I'm sure listening back to this now after we've done those first 2 episodes, it's pretty amazing. Some of the things that were touched on in there, you weren't here.
Yeah.
It was almost like we've set you up. Well, we've set this up and you were here,
but that's a good point, because I actually forgot in that moment that you actually did do this before me, because what they're sort of validating is that the conversations that both of you would have, it's sort of like, that's what I would want them to know. So there's elements where you have both been able to be raw with each other, or bring up your thoughts and actions. That's exactly what Spirit's validating. That not only that they understand it, but that's also the things that they would want to heal within. So it's sort of like they've already done that journey, or they've already begun that. I mean, you've begun it before today anyway, I don't doubt, but with what you're able to do today, it's sort of like that's exactly what I would want for them, or what I would tell for them.
Yeah.
So you both done it very well, apparently. The other episodes that you've recorded.
That's awesome. The one thing that I do want to ask my dad about the kiss.
He says it was after I crossed over. I don't know if this is it, but when you're asleep, do you feel like sometimes people like touch your arms or kiss your forehead? Because again, he leaned in and went like that.
After he passed, he actually, like, there was a kiss mark that turned up on my arm.
Yeah. Would have happened when you were asleep.
I did have an experience where I woke up. I didn't realize at the time, but it was the early morning hours of my 30th birthday. And I could feel like it physically woke me up. That like heaviness on my chest. I have night experiences.
Yeah, it's not what he's referencing though. That's the only thing. Because have either of you woken up recently in pins and needles, like whole body tinglings? So that's going to happen very soon then, because they're putting it in the element of 7. So I thought it was either 7 days within the last 7 days, but it will be come up in the next week. Both of you might actually wake up at the same time, like covered in pins and needles. And I don't know why, because there's no real spiritual significance around that, but Spirit's taking credit for it.
Just to mess with us.
Yeah. My dad haunts me.
He's like, no, I don't.
Yes, he does.
No.
Liar.
He said, well, yeah. Well, he says, because nothing will ever separate us. He says, I don't haunt you. He says, this is nowhere else I would rather be. And he says, it wouldn't be me if I didn't mess around with her, though. I don't know whether you have sisters, but he says she's my favorite daughter.
He said it.
Cut. You are very similar to your dad, though, energetically, if that makes sense. Like the elements of how we see the world, or the elements of even the conversations we can have. I can have chats with her that I can't have with anyone else.
Yeah.
And he says, I can appreciate the elements of that, because I see my best moments and also my heaviest moments within her. And he says, it's because of that there's nowhere else I would rather be. And he says, but still, the goal for her now, and she's touched on it today, is it's not meant to sound negative, he says, but it's to understand the elements of forgiveness of her mother. Because he says, for both of my kids, which is actually both of you, he says we can appreciate what happens in the physical world. We can understand it. We don't have to forgive them for that, but we forgive ourselves for expecting more of them.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. So when we reference your mum, Ellie, it's sort of like you don't necessarily have to forgive some of the things that she said or done or the behaviors towards you or other people.
Yeah.
Forgive her for not knowing better, or forgive her for not realizing or not paying proper attention to the impact it would have on you as her daughter. Because your peace is more important than anything else.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm just so glad she found him. He says, there's no one else I would want my daughter to be held by. I love that because Peter, Peter's there as well, but Rick Cardo just said, because Ross is the man that I wish that I could be. And he says, and I love you. He says, because even when I crossed over, he says, Ross felt guilty because he didn't know how to be present, or he didn't know what to say, what to do. How do I translate? He says, but he did everything perfectly.
He did.
He says, because just by being there and being that anchor, he says, that's what gets my daughter to where she is today. He says, so I love you. Then he wants to lighten the mood. And he's like, and I like her hair better like this.
Dad calling me out. Like
I was like, after saying something like that, he goes, and I like her hair better like that.
That's, yeah. Yeah, he wouldn't have liked my hair short.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have.
Do you know what he called it?
What?
He calls the dyke haircut.
He would have
Apologies for the same sex-attracted females out there with short hair. No, he's just winding you up.
That's my
Yeah.
dad.
He's just winding you up.
Oh my God.
Either of you surf? I mean, it's Gold Coast, but what I pictured, unless you've had someone cross over that's had this for them, but I pictured all these surfboards going out into the water. But it's sort of like, when they do like honors, we honor people in the water and we do like circular and everyone's on surfboards.
Yeah.
I'm sort of seeing that in my head. Lara Bingle or Lara Worthington, either of you have connections with her?
I do.
I don't know why, because I just saw her go, so where the bloody hell are you? I don't know what that's about. Do you speak to her now? Still? Or just
like over social media?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like over the years.
I just don't know why Dad's bringing in Lara Bingle. Or Lara Worthington, pardon me. I don't know why he's brought her up, but he's like, I'm like, do you fancy her? I don't know. Like, what's it?
Probably.
Yeah, there's something to do. I don't. It's only you two, but what I'm picturing in my head, it's both of you out in the ocean, sitting on surfboards, holding hands. But it's sort of like you're so far out. Like, it's not like in the middle of the ocean, but like you can see the coastline, but it's sort of like both of you are just out there holding hands. But it's only you guys. I thought it might be in honor of, loved ones that cross over or things like that, but he's only showing both of you. Yeah, they're not explaining why. They're just putting a heart around it, which is the element of love or connection. But they're not referencing the honor of them, so I just don't know what that's about.
Maybe we're all alone out at sea together.
Yeah.
Just you
You're
and me,
fucking
baby.
stuck with me.
but it feels literal as well. Like that thing, because figuratively, I'm like, yeah, good, but it feels literal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did either of you have any queries, questions? I mean, keeping it as broad as you want, of course, because you don't have to tell me everything. But for both of them, I mean, it's really the whole circle here today. But from both of them, both the fathers in particular, just is this whole connection of just holding on to both of your hands. And it's this element of like, it doesn't matter what happens from now. It's sort of like, we're always the dad. We're always the father.
Yeah.
They both go like that, which is the element of apology. So it's sort of like, just forgive us.
Yeah. I do. Tell him I do.
He's like, I know.
I struggle with both of them, but I do in a lot of ways. Again, I struggle,
and that's okay, because I feel like Peter said this before, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's more the elements of like, I understand what I've done, and when he just worded it perfectly. He says, when I say sorry, it's sort of like I'm not seeking like you to be like, oh, that's okay. It's more the element of wanting you to know that, and also, even as you mentioned, even with Rick, it's wanting you to know that I understand the negative impact that my actions, consequences, and causes have had on you. And that's my, he did say regret before. He says, and that's my regret. Because he says, he's the man. I say, they both said this to you today. He's the man that I wish that I was.
That's nice. I'm the fucking man.
Yeah. Someone's holding a cigar as well. Probably your dad.
My dad, yeah.
He loved a cigar.
Yeah.
I thought I didn't know what I was doing, but it was a real long cigarette. I'm like Brett Brown, like a cigar.
Yeah,
cigar.
a really big one.
Is he buried with one? He just held one next to him. So usually when they show me that, it's at ceremonies for them, which can be funerals.
I can't remember if he was.
I reckon there's a
he
really
was.
good chance he's buried with a cigar.
Yeah.
Oh, and I was thinking the same thing. If he loved them, that's probably a good
Yeah.
chance anyway. But he's referencing right near his side. He says, I don't want a funeral. I don't want a funeral.
Did he like his?
He liked the funeral. And as I tuned out, then I just started playing Righteous Brothers' Unchained Melody. Oh, my love, my darling.
Oh my God, he used to sing that to me all the time. He literally used to sing that to me when I was going to sleep.
He's singing it to you right now. I can hear him singing it. I was like, what a song to play. Only you. He says, so just remember, it's not goodbye. I'm still right next door. And he kissed you right on the forehead.
I'm a fucking mess.
You're a pretty crier.
He used to sing that to me as a kid when I was like going to sleep.
He's holding your hand and he's just sort of leaning over and singing it to you. Like, I literally feel when I look up, I'm going to see him standing right there, like as clear as I'm seeing both of you, because it's so clear in my head. He says, yeah, she'll always be that girl for me. He says, because as she got older, she got complicated.
Well, fucking because of him.
Yeah. He just loves taking the piss. Like, it's sort of like he's literally like poking the bear with his
It's
stick.
a tennis match.
Yeah, 100%. That's the perfect way to describe it. Like, it's sort of like, but he wants to test the limits of everyone around him as well. It's sort of like, how far can I push him till they fucking just want to kill me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, but he loves it. Like, he's got the cheekiest smile on his face. But he just holds your hand and he's just singing it. So, like, it's literally like he's right there. And then they all just go.
That was actually amazing.
My body's still floating. So when I read it, it feels like I float.
Yeah.
And then when they say, like, when they're done with me, it's like I sink back down. I'm like, all right.
They like say what they like. They're done saying what they need to say.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was one of the most unreal experiences ever.
Thank you.
Like, I can't like thank you enough. I feel like it gives me so much closure.
What they've done with both of you, and they were, even as you were just saying that, they went, as you were talking, I heard it in my day, they said, yeah, but Ross. So it's not to say, and it's not to say that you're not happy, it's not to say that you're unhappy, but it's more this element of like, what they've done within you is sort of trigger points where it's sort of like, from this, and from today onwards, with even conversations you've had, like, things will make more sense as time goes on.
Yeah.
For both of you, it's sort of like, don't expect the epiphany of understanding. It's sort of like, it's already within, they're bringing it out.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was actually amazing.
That was very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that was actually one of the most beautiful things like I've ever experienced, like spiritually, or like it's it's actually just so stunning. So thank you so much.
Never had a spirit say goodbye by singing to someone. Like, I can't remember that happening off the top of my head.
Really?
Where they will sing and then walk out, like, not walk out, but like show themselves like fading into the light.
Yeah, as like a baby, my dad would lie in bed with me and like sing me to sleep
Yeah, beautiful.
all the time. I've got there's videos of us in the car with that song playing. It's so crazy. It's
I
mind-blowing.
guarantee you'll hear that song again. I mean, it's not a common song now because it's an older song, obviously, but I can guarantee you'll hear it soon.
Oh,
Yeah.
that blows
Yeah.
my mind. That
Yeah.
actually blows my
It's a
mind.
beautiful song.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
for
thank
being,
you so much
for being our
Thank
first
you.
official guest on In Real Life.
What an honor.
And how deep. Wow, that's
I
going to be
know.
a tough act to follow.
I know.
By the way, the first guest that we had on spoke to our dead dads.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to talk about?
No pressure, but you better bring something really fantastic to the table.
Yeah.
Because the bar is fucking high.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, that was absolutely unreal. Thank you so much. We're just so honored to have you here today with us. And
How can people follow your stuff and get in contact
Yeah.
with you? Obviously, we'll post all of your things and the stuff and the things. But
Yeah.
What
The
do you want
things.
people to know about for what you've got coming up?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got a lot planned for 2025. So first and foremost, you can follow along on Instagram, which is @DavidTheMedium. So that's where I post as daily updates, but also psychic predictions and just things going on in life. I've recently launched my own podcast myself called Medium at Large.
yay.
P.S. would love to have you guys on.
Yes,
Oh, let's do it.
we're coming.
Podcast exchange.
Well, actually, Ross, I've actually already agreed. You don't know this, but I've already agreed that we're going on the podcast.
Let's
So
go.
don't tell him. No,
So we're already committed.
So that's called Medium at Large, just launched, and the whole aspect of that is, I want to bring spirituality mainstream, because even as someone like me, I've listened to spiritual podcasts, and I'm like, what the fuck are you guys saying? Like, it doesn't even make sense to me.
Mm.
So I want to help explain in a really easy way and cover lighthearted topics, but I also want to have guests on that you have heard speak 100 times before, but maybe they've never spoken about that.
Yeah.
So that's been really fun, and I've just finished this year doing some live shows around Australia. Something I've wanted to do for years and years and years, but just never had not courage to do it, but maybe courage is a good word. I just was always a little bit fearful of standing up in front of a crowd like that, even though I love it. It was amazing. So
Yeah.
I've just done 5 shows so far, and then next year I want to do it all over again, but do it like a proper tour.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And then
Well, we'll be sitting there front row.
I would love to have you as my guest.
Yeah.
Gold Coast was actually the first place I came after Melbourne. So I did my first show in Melbourne back in March, and then
I just missed you.
were you in March in Melbourne then?
No, I think it was up here. I just missed you when you came up here. That's
You were
when
in
we were
Sydney.
talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, come along.
I
I'm
know.
like,
I'd love to have you.
"I'm
Yeah,
not
you were
coming
in
to
Sydney.
you."
I remember. Yeah.
Oh, so
So
amazing.
no, I love the Goldie crowd because they were the most demanding that they come there next. So yeah.
Yeah.
And then did the Sydney crowd at the Opera House. I was the first Australian medium to do a live show there.
Really?
Icon.
Icon,
An
yeah.
icon in an icon.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a
Not
good
like
venue.
in an icon, but
Yeah, I'm like,
you're in
is
an
that tonight?
iconic building.
Who are we meeting? Like, who's the icon you're hooking me up with? So, yeah. Is he black? No.
Well, you're a star. We love you. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast
Right
today.
back at you both. Thank
Just
you.
so incredible. So thank you so much. And we'll see you on your podcast.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you. Thanks
looking
for
forward to
coming.
doing it.
Yeah.
Thanks for the energy. Thanks for the session. It was, overwhelming. I'm still processing.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for being open, and thank you for having me
Yeah.
on.
Our
Thanks,
pleasure.
man.
Cheers.
Thanks for having us, guys. Thanks for tuning
you.
in. Like, subscribe, do all the things, or don't. We don't fucking care. Whatever. No, we actually do care.
Yeah, they
Keep
do.
sharing.
They deserve a 5-star rating.
But thanks for joining us today. We hope that you didn't cry too much. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys. Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to In Real Life. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to subscribe on Spotify and connect with us on Instagram at IRL with us. And remember, life isn't about meeting other people's expectations. It's about living it on your terms and meeting your own expectations. So go out there and live in real life. We'll see you next time.